Hello, and welcome to Tell Me About Your Book. My name is John Christian. Today my guest is self-published author Dolores Cruz. Her 24-year-old son was involved in an automobile accident, which took his life. Dolores went on to write a book on how she has been dealing with that grief. Hi, Dolores. Welcome to the show.
Hi, John. Thanks so much. It's really great to be here.
Right. So, tell me about your book.
Well, my book is called Look Around, subtitled A Mother's Journey from Grief and Despair to Healing and Hope. And my book is my story and my son's story. My 24-year-old son was killed in a car accident about 5.5 years ago, which, as you know, anyone knows who's experienced the death of a dear loved one, is totally devastating. And certainly, as being my child, the youngest of my four, it started me off on a journey I never wanted, but there I was. And I, in time, definitely just needed to write this all down. It took me about, I would say, 2 to 3 years before I decided to start writing about it. And it's a story of him, my son, Eric, who he was, how cool he was. He was a drummer. He was a musician. He was an amazing friend and son. And also what happened. It's the story of what happened. I take a very raw look into all the emotions that are involved, to all the pain. And I wanted to share that because I do believe, and I'm learning more and more, that it really is important for us to share these stories, painful, no matter what. It's important for us to share because we all experience something like this, similar to this in our lives. Then the latter third part of the book is my healing journey. It does get a little spiritual. That's just how it was for me. Again, this is the way it worked for me. I have found that grief is, it's like your own little fingerprint. It's different for each person. It's very individualized. So this is the way it was for me. And the healing that has occurred, that continues. So it's not like one day, whoo, I'm done, I'm healed. I am certainly in a better place. I'm in a place where I can live again, which is not what I thought when this all first happened. But I wanted to share that, hopefully to offer hope for other people as well.
And it must have been very cathartic for you to write the book. And you waited 3.5 years, you said?
Yeah, I want to say I think it was about 3 years. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right before that 3-year mark. Yeah.
When did you consider writing a book about this?
Well, that's interesting as well. First of all, yes, it was very cathartic, which also helped me just to put it down. But, interestingly, just 3 or 4 months, I went to see a grief specialist, a therapist, right away, because that's what I wanted to do. I felt very grateful and blessed that who I found, this wonderful woman, Jennifer Levin. And about 3 or 4 months in, I was with her for about 1.5 years, but she said to me, we had awesome talks, and she said, "Do you think you have a book in you?" And I said, well, I don't know. I really hadn't thought about it. I think she brought that up again, maybe a few months later, and then someone else brought it up. So by that time, I thought, maybe I do. Maybe I can do this. I had not written a book before. It seemed like it was such an awesome, and I mean big, huge, ominous, I guess, thing to do. How do I do that? But finally, at some point, kind of interesting. About 6 months before I started writing the book, I was driving to work. I was still working at that time as a school teacher, elementary school teacher. So I was driving to work in the morning, about 15-minute drive. And I suddenly just kind of got all this information or whatever you want to call it. But by the time I got to work, I knew exactly how the book was going to go. I knew almost exactly what every chapter would be. I got to work, wrote it down before I started school. And then I just kind of held on to it. The pandemic comes, we're now in shutdown, and I said, it's time. So that is when I began, right about April of 2020, and had plenty of time to spend every day, a couple of hours, an hour or two a day, actually, at the most, probably, but writing the story down. And it wasn't for me difficult to come up with what to write. It was just all there. I just had to put it down. So that is how it worked. Again, something I never thought would happen, and it did.
Well, writing a book is daunting in and of itself, but writing a book on the subject that is so close to the pain that you had to overcome, that must have been really difficult.
You know, it was difficult, but it was not. It was difficult to feel that again. But I think I've always allowed myself to feel whatever I needed to feel, so I wasn't afraid of it. And whatever came up was fine. But that was for part of the book. Other parts of the book were awesome and beautiful and wonderful to write about, especially when I was just writing about my son. And, of course, every mother's going to have wonderful things to say about their child, but, and then sharing the amazing connections I still had, and the growth I felt during the time afterwards, that following 3 years since I wrote the book.
Well, the results of you writing the book and all the feelings associated with it, as you explain, are similar to that which you get through support groups. Have you been part of a support group? Have you shared this book in that regards?
Yes. So along with the therapist, I did find actually a couple of support groups within that first year, I guess. And if you want me to name the groups, I certainly can, or I don't have to.
No, that's fine. You could name them. It's all fine.
Sure. So the first group, well, this is how it worked. There's a wonderful man that probably many people have heard of, especially through grief, named David Kessler. He's a grief specialist. He's located in Los Angeles, but of course he's gone around and to other states and done workshops and classes. And I found him pretty quickly, and I did an online class. At the time we didn't need to do online, but it happened to be an online class course just for what happens, just working with your grief. And it was very, very helpful. And then through him, eventually, especially during COVID, he offered this awesome opportunity for everyone, knowing how many people were grieving during COVID. He came online and offered a Facebook group where he went on every single day to speak for an hour. And people asked questions and he answered questions. So I became part of that group. It's an online group, which I still love to participate in. I'm in a different place now in my grief, but we still just get so much by being there with each other and for each other. So he's fantastic. And then another group that I found about 8 months after my son's accident is called Helping Parents Heal. So this one is specifically for parents who've lost a child. And what I found, and I also found them online. So it was a Facebook group to begin with. But what was special and different about them is they allow a lot of conversation about afterlife. And for me, that was perfect. I know that's not for everybody, but for me, that was something I needed and I found a lot of comfort in, and I loved having those talks or having those questions and answers. And so everybody in the group, including the head administrators, of course, has lost a child. So we're all in the same boat there. then I found out, oh, they have local groups. Gee, do I have a local group in Los Angeles, which is where I live? And I checked and there wasn't. So I asked, our head administrator, is there something local here? And she said, well, no, but why don't you start one? And at first I thought that was like after a year and a half. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready. I'll keep that in mind. Well, anyway, at the beginning of 2020, before shutdown, by then I had met up with two other moms that were local, and the three of us decided to start a local chapter for Helping Parents Heal. And we had a couple of in-person meetings before we had to go online for 2 years. So I am involved that way now as well. And we are still doing that today, back to some in-person meetings.
That's nice.
Part of my inspiration to even do this was that on the Helping Parents Heal Facebook group, I saw, posts from other parents about their books. So there were a handful of other parents. I mean, mind you, at the time I joined, there were 5,000 members online. Now there's about almost 25,000. But so there were some parents who talked about their books. So I read them. And when I read them, they comforted me, they helped me. And I said,
right.
I think I can do this.
Right.
So I wrote mine. I had the confidence then to write mine. And yes, so I've been able to share that with the group. I have gotten wonderful feedback about it being helpful, which is all I want to know, is that it's helpful. And it's a good feeling to know that I can be helpful. I can serve others in this way. So yes, I've gotten good feedback. And actually on the Helping Parents Heal website, there's a tab for, I think it's resources, but also books by providers, other people that come on to speak, and then books by parents. So I'm listed in there as well, along with some other wonderful books.
Wow. That's a whole world I've never even considered.
Yeah, me either.
25,000 from 5,000. That number that really struck a note with me.
Yeah. It's amazing how it's exploded. And we're probably close to 25,000. I don't want to misquote, but last time I heard it was about 23, 24. So yeah, it's international. There are people from all kinds of other countries as well. So I've been able to share my book there.
And great. And how are sales for your book?
They're good. They started out great, of course, once I first so you know how that is, at least I'm assuming. As a self-published author, I had to get the word out myself. I had a lot of sales in the beginning, of course. And then over time, there were some. It has gone up because I was able to publish an article in the Huffington Post just a couple of weeks ago, actually.
I saw that.
And because of that, with links to, my website and my blog, then there was more interest again and many more sales. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that this little chat we're having is going to contribute to your ability to promote it even more.
I hope so. And thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So do you have any final words to say about your book?
I just want to say that I wanted people to know who my son was. I wanted them to know that we all can have major challenges in our lives, but there are, believe it or not, hidden gifts in those challenges. And it's just a matter of, as I mentioned, sharing, speaking about it, listening to someone is that's a huge thing anyone can do for someone who's grieving. And hopefully know that there is a chance to heal, to move forward, and to help others, ideally, once this has happened.
Well, I think what you've done is beautiful. And I would order your book, and I will. As soon as I finish this, I'll be ordering it. I'm very curious to see that process that you went through and how you come out the other side and how you can help people as well. I think it's wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you for that.
Well, thank you for being on the show. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much, John. It's been a pleasure to talk to you too and to get to know you.
You take care, Dolores.
Okay, thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's our show for today. If you like what I do here on Tell Me About Your Book, hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell. And if you are a self-published author, I would love to hear from you. Until next time, keep writing and be kind to one another.